Do you want to sleep? Then listen to me. Turn off the lights, close the windows, now close them and listen to you. Finally, I will make a request to you. Put down your phone and listen to my voice. Listen clearly. I will now tell you a story that will make you sleepy. Close your eyes and listen carefully to my words.
The Frontier That Never Slept. The year was 1897, and the wind across the northwest frontier carried a strange warning. It was not a loud wind, but a whispering one that brushed over the stony ridges and narrow passes of the Samana Range, as if trying to tell the soldiers stationed there that something was coming. High above the dusty valley floor stood a lonely outpost, Saragarhi, one of the many small forts protecting the British-Indian border. To the west lay the lands of the Pashtun tribes, fierce, proud, and restless. To the east, the army posts of the British Raj. And somewhere between them, in the middle of all this tension and silence, stood a small group of Sikh soldiers from the 36th Sikh Regiment. They were not many. They did not have wealth or position or political power. But they had courage, a calm, grounded courage that came from their faith, their training, and the centuries of warrior tradition behind them. Far below them, unseen, but slowly gathering, tribal leaders were uniting thousands of fighters. They were angered, determined, and preparing to strike at the forts around the valley. The trouble began when rumors drifted to the ears of Havildar Ishar Singh, the soldier unofficially acting as the leader of the small detachment at the nearby post called Saragarhi. Saragarhi was not a glamorous fort. It was simply a signaling post, a rocky, sunburnt station whose purpose was to pass messages between the larger forts of Gulistan and Lockhart. But Ishar Singh had been a soldier long enough to understand that sometimes even the smallest outpost becomes the center of the greatest storm. Reports trickled in, strange activity in the hills, unusual tribal movements, bonfires seen at night. Still, the days went on quietly. The Sikh soldiers woke before sunrise, tied their turbans, cleaned their rifles, and performed their daily prayers as the sky filled with soft amber light. To any ordinary traveler, the frontier might have looked peaceful, but the Sikhs knew better. The calm felt too thin, like the stillness before thunder cracks open the sky. In the evenings, they sat on the rocky ground, drinking tea brewed from tin cups, talking in low voices. Some laughed, some polished their rifles out of habit, some simply watched the horizon, as if trying to tell the soldiers stationed there that something was coming. None of them knew the exact moment when the storm would arrive, but each man, every one of the 21 Sikhs stationed at Saragarhi, felt deep in his bones that something vast, something dangerous was approaching, and that when it came, they would be ready. Even if the world forgot their names, even if no help reached them in time, they would stand. Because warriors do not choose the size of the enemy, only the size of their courage. And soon, very soon, their courage would be tested in a way the world had never seen before.
The unbelievable odds reveal themselves. The sun hung low over the dusty plains of the northwest frontier, its orange glow spreading across the rugged hills like a warning painted in the sky. Inside the tiny outpost at Saragarhi, the 21 Sikh soldiers of the 36th Sikh Regiment prepared for another long day, unaware that history was positioning them for a moment that would echo for centuries. Havildar Ishar Singh, their calm and iron-willed leader, stepped outside the narrow wooden gate and scanned the horizon. The land was silent, too silent. Then, a flicker, a shape. a ripple of movement across the distant ridge. Ishar Singh narrowed his eyes. No, not movement. A wave of men. Dozens at first, then hundreds, and soon many hundreds more. Within minutes, the truth settled over the garrison like a cold hand. An army of nearly 10,000 Afghan tribesmen was advancing toward their lonely outpost. Rifles glinted in the sunlight, war drums thudded, banners snapped in the wind. Private Gurmukh Singh, the youngest of the unit, ran to Ishar Singh's side, unable to hide the tremor in his voice. "Sir, they're heading straight for us." Ishar Singh didn't blink. He didn't even step back. He simply folded his arms and said quietly, "Then we shall welcome them." Inside the post, mess tin lids froze midair. Conversations stopped. Every man had heard the stories of tribes who outnumbered, surrounded, and overwhelmed British garrisons all along the frontier. But 21 against 10,000? This wasn't a battle, it was a sentence. And yet, not one man stepped away, not one asked to leave. The tiny garrison, barely bigger than a small courtyard, suddenly felt like both a prison and a fortress. Ishar Singh addressed his men with a steady voice. "You know our duty. We hold this post. We do not retreat. Not today, not ever." A murmur of agreement rolled through the group. Sikh soldiers did not fear impossible odds. Their history was built on standing tall against them. Gurmukh Singh tightened his turban. Lance Naik Chanda Singh checked his rifle. The others took their positions along the mud-brick walls, breath steady, hearts ready. The ground trembled as the enemy approached, an army of shadows spilling down the mountainside. The Afghans raised their voices, a thunderous roar shaking the stones beneath the Sikhs' feet. But inside Saragarhi, silence. A powerful, unbreakable silence. 21 men stood ready, not because they thought they would win, but because they refused to run. The first battle cry rose from the hills, and the siege of Saragarhi began.
The gathering storm at Saragarhi. Dawn settled softly over the rugged hills of the northwest frontier. The light came slow, like a thin veil sliding across the jagged ridges, revealing stone, dust, and distant shadows that never seemed to rest. At the lonely outpost of Saragarhi, the 21 Sikh soldiers of the 36th Sikh Regiment were already awake. Some sipped tea. Others checked rifles worn smooth by sand and wind. And every man felt the same uneasy truth stirring in the air. Today would not be an ordinary day. The first signs. Havildar Ishar Singh, calm as a mountain, stood at the narrow watchtower and scanned the horizon. He didn't need binoculars to sense what was coming. The land itself seemed to shift. Dust rising, movement in the distance. Too many shadows, moving too deliberately. He turned to the signalman. "Tell them the tribes are gathering," he said quietly. "Tell them the tribes are gathering." The signalman nodded and began tapping out the heliograph message, flashes of sunlight carrying warnings across miles of empty desert. But before the message even finished transmitting, a low rumble rolled through the valley. Not thunder. Footsteps. Hundreds. Then thousands. The enemy reveals itself. Like a dark tide, they emerged from behind the hills, Afghan and Orakzai tribesmen armed with rifles, spears, and the raw fury of a people ready for war. 10,000 strong. Their war cries echoed across the valley, bouncing off the cliffs like the roar of some ancient beast awakened from sleep. One of the young Sikh soldiers, barely past boyhood, swallowed hard. There are too many, Havildar Sahib. Ishar Singh didn't flinch. There are many, he agreed, but they are not 21 Khalsa. A few of the men exchanged small smiles. Their breaths steadied. The fear loosened its grip. For these weren't ordinary soldiers. They followed the teachings of their gurus to stand fearlessly, to protect others, to fight with honor, especially when outnumbered. The ultimatum. By mid-morning, a small group of tribal leaders approached the fort and called out, "Leave now! Abandon the post, and your lives will be spared!" The men looked at Ishar Singh. He did not hesitate. "Tell them," he said, "we do not abandon our duty." When the Sikh reply was delivered, the hills trembled with the roar of thousands preparing for assault. The siege of Saragarhi had begun. Hold the line. Night softened the battlefield into shades of blue and ember orange. The sun had slipped behind the distant mountains, leaving only the smoky glow of burning shrubs and the quiet metallic clinks of exhausted soldiers checking their rifles. Inside the half-destroyed outpost at Saragarhi, Havildar Ishar Singh walked slowly along the wall, lantern in hand, looking over the faces of the men who continued to stand with him. Every warrior was bruised. Every uniform was torn. Every breath tasted of dust and gunpowder. And yet, even after fighting since morning, no one moved from his post. The Afghans had paused their attack for the evening, their great numbers melting into the darkness beyond the ridge. But the Sikhs knew this silence was not mercy. It was preparation. As the lantern dimmed, Ishar Singh finally spoke. "We have done what many armies could not," he said quietly. "We have held back thousands." Naik Lal Singh nodded, wiping soot from his face. "They will return with the night, harder than before." The men exchanged glances. Fear was there, of course it was. But deeper than fear was something stronger. Duty. Each man had enlisted under the same oath, to defend the post, to stand with honor, to never retreat. In the flickering light, young Sepoy Gurmukh Singh stepped forward. "Havildar Sahib, if we fall, what then?" Ishar Singh placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then we fall as soldiers, and the world will remember that 21 men did not bow to 10,000. A quiet strength spread across the room. The men checked their rifles one last time, sharpened their bayonets, shared the final drops of water from a dented canteen. Outside, the wind shifted, the kind of shift that tells a soldier the enemy is on the move. Drums began to echo in the distance. The ground trembled with marching feet. The Afghans were returning, but this time they carried ladders, torches, and the thunderous roar of thousands preparing for the final assault. Ishar Singh turned to his men. "Brothers, the line must hold, even if we are the last line left." The men spread out across the walls, rifles ready, boots steady. 21 shadows standing against an ocean of darkness. The Afghan war cry ripped through the mountains, a booming sound rolling like an avalanche. Ishar Singh raised his sword. "For Saragarhi!" The men answered as one, "Bole so nihal! Sat Sri Akal!" And with that, the final battle began.
The final stand. The sun had sunk low, staining the sky with streaks of burning gold. The battlefield was a haze of dust, smoke, and echoing shouts. Yet inside Saragarhi, a strange stillness settled. A stillness that comes only when warriors know their time has come. Havildar Ishar Singh wiped the blood from his brow, not all of it his own, and looked at the remaining handful of his men. Fewer now, weary, wounded, but unbroken. Outside, the Afghan tribes surged again, 10,000 shadows shifting, advancing, roaring. The final assault was moments away. "Brothers," Ishar Singh said quietly, his voice steady as the earth beneath them, "you have fought beyond courage. Whatever comes next, let it be said that on this day the world witnessed 21 lions." A murmur of pride rose among the men. They checked their rifles. They tied their turbans with trembling hands. They whispered Ardas, the warrior's prayer. The gates shook violently. A deafening crack thundered through the post. The enemy had brought explosives. One of the men turned to Ishar Singh. "Sir, shall we retreat to the inner room?" Ishar Singh gave a small smile. "A Sikh retreats only in stories told by cowards. We stay. We finish what we began." The gate burst inward. The final wave poured through. The Sikh rifles opened fire, each shot deliberate, each breath steady. The noise became a storm, gunfire, war cries, the clash of steel. Still they held the line, shoulder to shoulder, fighting in the doorway, the courtyard, the very dust. One soldier fell, whispering, "Sat Sri Akal." Another fought on with a wounded arm, refusing to drop his rifle. And in the center of it all, Havildar Ishar Singh fought like a man carved from iron, every strike a vow, every step a defiance. But the numbers were relentless. Slowly, the defenders were pushed back, surrounded, overwhelmed. With his final breath, Ishar Singh lifted his rifle one last time, not at the enemy, but at the sky. A salute. A warrior's farewell. The last stand. The sun had dipped low, turning the distant mountains into jagged silhouettes. The once golden sky had deepened to a blazing red, as if the heavens themselves understood what was happening at Saragarhi, that the final moments of 21 brave men were unfolding. Inside the battered signal post, the air felt heavy, thick with smoke, dust, and the metallic scent of exhaustion. Havildar Ishar Singh wiped the sweat from his brow, smearing a thin streak of dirt across his temple. His voice, rough but steady, rose above the gunfire. "Brothers, prepare yourselves. This is where we make our final mark." Around him, the remaining Sikh soldiers nodded, not with fear, but with a quiet, unbreakable resolve. Their turbans were torn, their uniforms cut by shrapnel and flame, but their eyes still held the fierce spark of warriors who understood their duty. Outside, the attackers pressed in closer, thousands of them, more than any man could count in the heat of battle. They swarmed like a living tide, shouting to each other, pushing forward ladders, hacking at the walls, determined to overwhelm the tiny outpost. The Sikhs knew what that meant. The walls wouldn't hold much longer. And yet, no one stepped back. Gurmukh Singh continued transmitting messages through the heliograph, even as the glass was cracked and his hands trembled. He sent their final report. "We are under heavy attack. We will fight to the last man and last breath." Far away at Fort Lockhart, the officers paused when they read it. A silence spread through the room. They knew with painful certainty
that nothing could be done to save them. Back at Saragarhi, a wooden beam crashed, splintering into the courtyard. Enemy fighters began to spill through, yelling victory too early. Nayak Lal Singh met them first, sword in one hand, rifle in the other, roaring a battle cry that echoed across the entire valley. The clash of steel rang like thunder. Each blow he delivered was fueled by sheer will, every strike a statement. You may take our lives, but not our courage. More enemies poured in. The Sikhs formed a defensive circle, back to back, each protecting the other. They fought with rifles until the bullets dried, with bayonets until the metal bent, with bare hands when nothing else remained. The ground beneath them shook with the weight of thousands, but still they held. Still they stood. Still they refused to fall. Above the chaos, Ishar Singh's voice rose once more, not in despair, but in defiance, in pride. Today, my brothers, the world will know what it means to be Sikh. He charged forward, overwhelming enemies with a fury born from loyalty and honor. Even surrounded, even wounded, he fought like a man who had decided his story would not end quietly. By the time the sun touched the edge of the earth, only a few defenders remained. And yet, none surrendered. None stepped back. Saragarhi was falling, but its spirit was rising into legend.
The first shots of doom. The wind over the dusty plains of Saragarhi carried with it an unnatural stillness, the kind of silence that signals the world is holding its breath. At the top of the signaling post, Havildar Ishar Singh looked out across the horizon, and there they were, a sea of warriors, 10,000 tribesmen gathering like a rising storm. Their banners fluttered, their rifles glinted, their war drums echoed across the valley. Behind Ishar Singh, only 20 other Sikhs stood ready, not fearful, not hesitant, but steady as carved stone. Naik Lal Singh gripped his rifle. "Sir, they're moving." Ishar Singh's eyes narrowed. The enemy began to advance in rippling waves, kicking up clouds of dust that rose like smoke. "Men," he said quietly, "today we are not fighting to live. We are fighting so the world remembers how a Sikh dies." The men straightened, shoulders back, turbans tight, rifles raised. The first tribesman came into range. "Hold," Ishar Singh murmured. Then closer. "Hold." The enemy shouted victory cries, certain of their overwhelming numbers. "Fire!" The fort exploded with thunder. 21 rifles cracked with the disciplined precision of a single heartbeat. Dozens of attackers collapsed instantly. Shock rippled through the charging ranks, but the enemy did not stop. A second wave surged forward. The Sikh rifles fired again, fast, controlled, deadly. Enemy after enemy fell. Yet still, they came. Masses of men pushing forward, climbing over their fallen, raising war cries that shook the ground. But on the walls of Saragarhi, the Sikhs stood like lions. Lal Singh laughed between shots. "At this rate, we will run out of ammunition before they run out of bodies." Gurmukh Singh, the youngest of them, reloaded with shaking hands. "Sir, will the reinforcements come?" Ishar Singh didn't answer. He simply fired again, one perfect shot through the dust, striking down a distant leader. The tribesmen howled and spread out, trying to surround the post from all sides. The enemy was learning. The enemy was adapting.
and they were many. The Sikhs exchanged tense glances as the waves grew thicker, closer, angrier. Then Ishar Singh spoke, calm as ever. "Men, we hold this post until our final breath." And as the sun climbed higher, the Battle of Saragarhi finally began in full. The defenders had no illusions, no backup, no escape, only duty, only courage, only 21 against 10,000.
The last stand. The sun had begun its slow descent, turning the sky into streaks of orange and fading gold. Inside the battered stone walls of Saragarhi, the air was thick with smoke, dust, exhaustion, and something deeper, something unbreakable. Only a handful of the 21 Sikh soldiers remained standing now. Their uniforms were torn, their turbans darkened with smoke, their breath heavy, but their eyes, those eyes still burned like live embers. Havildar Ishar Singh, blood on his hands, dust on his beard, stood tall even as the world seemed to tilt around him. The enemy had breached the walls. The fort shook with every explosion. Heavy footsteps echoed from the courtyard. The Afghans were closing in, thousands of them flooding through every gap, every shattered doorway. But the Sikh remaining did not back away. They lined up once more, shoulder to shoulder, forming a proud, defiant wall of humanity. Not soldiers of a small garrison, but warriors of a legend being written in real time. A calm before the storm. The smoke thinned for just a heartbeat, giving Ishar Singh a clear view of his men. Sipahi Ram Singh, exhausted but steady, whispered, "Sir, it has been an honor." Another replied, "Today we fight not for victory, but for time." A third added, "For our brothers and for our name." The Havildar nodded once. A small, quiet smile crept across his face. It is enough. Their breaths steadied, their hands gripped their rifles, what was left of them. A few bullets remained. Not enough, but enough to stand. The rush. A roar erupted from outside, thousands of voices merging into one overwhelming wave of sound. The gate trembled, cracked, shuddered, and finally burst open. The enemy swarmed in. A mass of bodies, blades, rifles, and fury rushed forward like an unstoppable tide. But the Sikhs met the tide head-on. Gunshots rang out, sharp, bright, final. Each one placed with purpose, each one buying seconds more, seconds that would echo for centuries. Hand to hand. When the bullets ran out, the men did not backfall. They charged. Kirpans flashed like silver lightning. Fists struck with the force of mountains. Every Sikh soldier became a storm in human form, torn uniform, burning spirit, unyielding heart. They fought until breath deserted them. They fought until their muscles refused to lift their arms. They fought until the world dimmed and the ground rose to meet them. Yet even as they fell, they did not surrender. Not one. Only one left. Havildar Ishar Singh stood alone now, surrounded by enemies, his chest rising and falling like a bellows. His body ached, but his spirit refused to bow. He lifted his sword, slowly, defiantly, one last time. The Afghans circled him, dozens, then hundreds. Still, he stepped forward, and the sound of his final battle cry cut through the chaos like thunder. Even the enemy stopped
for a heartbeat, because a man with nothing left to lose is the most dangerous of all. And then, silence. The last warrior of Saragarhi finally fell. The battlefield grew quiet. The sun dipped lower, casting a warm glow over the broken fort. The enemy, victorious yet strangely subdued, stood in awe. Only 21 men had held off 10,000 for nearly an entire day. A feat not of muscle, but of will. A sacrifice destined to echo through history. And as dusk swallowed the mountains, the wind carried a final whisper through the ruins. Never forget Saragarhi.
The last warrior standing. The battlefield had gone strangely quiet. Not peaceful, but the heavy, ringing silence that follows thunder. Smoke drifted low across the sandy ground. Broken rifles lay scattered beside fallen warriors. The earth was blackened with gunpowder and the footprints of thousands. And in the center of that vast, brutal scene, a single figure still stood. Havildar Ishar Singh, wounded, breath ragged, uniform torn, wiped the blood from his eyes. His regiment, his brothers, had all fallen around him, but their bodies formed something sacred, a ring of honor, proof that 21 men had dared to stop an army. The Pashtun attackers, thousands strong, hesitated. This lone Sikh soldier didn't run, didn't beg, didn't surrender. He simply lifted his final bullet, loaded it with trembling hands, and fired. The shot echoed across the valley like a declaration. The spirit of Saragarhi still stands. The Afghans surged forward again. Ishar Singh met them head-on, drawing his sword, the last weapon that hadn't failed him. He swung with relentless courage, every movement fueled not by survival, but by devotion. A blow struck his shoulder. Another hit his side. His strength faded, but his resolve did not. He fought until his knees buckled. He fought until he had nothing left to give. He fought until even the enemy, gripped by awe, stopped attacking. For a moment, everyone simply stared at the brave man kneeling before them, refusing to collapse. And then, with a final breath, Ishar Singh fell beside his brothers, having earned a place among legends. The sun dipped behind the ridges as silence reclaimed the outpost. 21 men had stood against 10,000, and the world would never forget. The Battle of Saragarhi was over, but its story had just begun. Dawn rose over the barren hills of the Samana Range, casting long shadows over the ruined stones of Saragarhi. The fort, now silent, looked nothing like the battlefield it had been just a day before. The smoke had cleared, the cries of battle had faded, but the memory of what happened here would echo for generations. British officers and relief troops finally arrived, expecting to find a fallen outpost, and instead found a legend carved into the earth. There, in the courtyard, lay the bodies of the 21 Sikh soldiers of the 36th Sikh Regiment, each one surrounded by fallen enemies. It was not a scene of defeat, it was a testament, a statement of courage so fierce it stunned even hardened military men. One officer removed his helmet, his voice barely a whisper. 21 men against thousands. Another soldier stepped forward, tallying the enemy casualties scattered around the fort. This wasn't a battle. It was a stand for eternity. The news traveled fast, faster than wind across the mountains. From Saragarhi to Peshawar, from Punjab to London, the tale spread.
a tiny garrison had held off an army 500 times its size. Across the British Empire, Parliament rose to its feet to honor them. Newspapers called it one of the greatest last stands in history. Military academies from Europe to Asia studied their tactics, discipline, and unwavering determination. But for the Sikhs, the meaning was even deeper. In Punjab, families received the news with a complex mix of grief and pride. Mothers wept for their sons, fathers stood silently, staring toward the horizon where their children had fallen. But every household knew, dying in battle was not a tragedy, dying without courage was. The communities of the region began reciting the soldiers' names as though they were ancient warriors from Sikh lore, heroes whose deeds were worthy of the Guru's own chronicles. Ishar Singh, the commanding Havaldar, became a symbol of fearless leadership. The men who fought beside him became reminders of the Sikh belief that righteousness matters more than survival. Years later, a glowing orange sun would set behind a newly built structure, the Saragarhi Memorial Gurudwara in Amritsar, a temple raised not just of stone, but of gratitude. Inside, candles flickered in memory of the 21 brave souls, forever remembered as martyrs, as warriors, as men who lived and died by the Sikh code. Nirbhav, without fear. Nirvar, without hate. Siva, service before self. Himmat, courage. Sacrifice above all. Their story inspired young Sikh men to enlist in numbers never seen before. Entire battalions marched into future wars carrying the spirit of Saragarhi on their shoulders. And the world remembered. 400 schools, memorials, and buildings would eventually be named Saragarhi in honor of this battle, an unbreakable reminder that courage does not require numbers. Even today, every year on September 12th, Sikhs around the world gather in Gurudwaras to commemorate Saragarhi Day. They speak the names of the 21, teach the story to their children, and remind each new generation. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to stand firm when the world expects you to fall. Thus, the legacy of the 21 Sikhs is not etched only in military history. It lives in every retelling, in every moment of bravery, in every person who chooses honor over comfort, in every heart that refuses to surrender.